The rain drummed against the windshield as I drove home, the rhythmic tapping drowning out the thoughts that had been gnawing at me for weeks. My name is Daniel Carter, and for the past 6 years, I had been married to the woman I thought was my soulmate, Emma. We had met in college, both young, ambitious, and hopelessly in love. I had worked tirelessly to build a future for us, climbing the corporate ladder in finance while she pursued her passion for interior design. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple. Our social media accounts were filled with smiling photos, lavish vacations, and dinner dates at high-end restaurants. But behind closed doors, something had shifted. Emma had grown distant. The laughter that once filled our home had been replaced by awkward silences and excuses. At first, I told myself it was just a phase. Work had been stressful for both of us, and people changed over time. But then came the late nights, the whispered phone calls, the constant texting. And the most painful part? The feeling that I had lost her without even knowing why. I parked in our driveway and sat in the car for a moment, staring at the dimly lit house. A lump formed in my throat as I reached for my phone. My best friend, Jason, had sent me a text earlier. "We need to talk. It's about Emma. Call me when you can." I had ignored it, pretending I hadn't seen it. Deep down, I already knew what he wanted to say. I just wasn't ready to hear it. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the car door and stepped into the cold night. The house was quiet when I entered, the scent of lavender candles lingering in the air. Emma was curled up on the couch, her laptop resting on her legs. She looked up and smiled, forced, like an actor playing a role. "Hey, you're home early," she said, closing the laptop quickly. I nodded, shrugging off my coat. "Yeah, slow day at work." Silence settled between us, thick and suffocating. I watched her, noticing the way she avoided my gaze, the way her fingers nervously played with the edge of her sweater. I wanted to ask her. I wanted to demand the truth. But instead, I just sat down beside her, pretending for one more night that everything was fine. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Emma in the shower. I stared at the ceiling, my mind clouded with doubts that had been festering for weeks. Jason's text from the previous night still lingered in my mind, an unspoken warning that refused to be ignored. I reached for my phone, hesitated for a moment, then dialed his number. He picked up almost immediately. "Dan, man, I've been trying to reach you." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, I saw your text. What's going on?" There was a pause on the other end. "I don't know how to say this, but I saw Emma last night." She wasn't alone. My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Jason hesitated again, then exhaled sharply. "I was out with some friends at the Oak Lounge, and I saw her. She was with a guy, tall, dark hair. They were in a booth in the corner, talking real close. It wasn't just friendly, Dan. They looked intimate." I clenched my jaw. "Did you see his face?" "Yeah." I didn't want to believe it, but Dan. It was Ryan. Ryan. The name sent a cold wave through me. Ryan was Emma's ex, the guy she had dated for 3 years before we got together. She had always insisted they ended on good terms, that there were no lingering feelings. But now, hearing his name again after all these years, it felt like a dagger to the chest. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice tight. 100%, Jason said. "I was going to confront her, but I didn't want to cause a scene. I figured you needed to know first." I swallowed hard, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Thanks, Jason. You gonna be okay?" I wasn't sure how to answer that. "Yeah," I lied. "I'll handle it." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall. My mind raced with 100 different thoughts. Emma had always been private about her past with Ryan, dismissing him as just an old chapter. But if that was true, why was she sneaking around with him? I needed proof. That night, Emma told me she was meeting her friend Sarah for dinner. I forced a smile and nodded. "Sounds fun," I said, pretending not to notice how she avoided my eyes. As soon as she left, I followed her. I kept my distance as I drove behind her car, my pulse pounding with every turn she took. When she pulled into a small, dimly lit restaurant downtown, I parked a block away and watched as she stepped inside. A minute later, Ryan walked in after her. My heart slammed against my ribs. I got out of the car and moved closer, peering through the restaurant window. They sat across from each other, leaning in close. Emma reached across the table, placing her hand over his, and he smiled. It was an expression I hadn't seen on her face in months, genuine happiness. A sick feeling settled in my gut. For the next hour, I stood there in the cold, watching as my wife laughed, touched his arm, and looked at him the way she used to look at me. It was undeniable now. She was in love with him. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures, my hands shaking. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was real. As I turned to leave, my chest tight with rage and heartbreak, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her just yet. No. If she wanted to play this game, I was going to make sure she lost everything. The next few days were unbearable. I kept acting normal, pretending I knew nothing, all while feeling like I was suffocating in my own home. Every time Emma kissed me goodbye or sent me a casual text during the day, I wondered if she had just been with him. The betrayal burned inside me, but I wasn't going to explode in anger. No, I had something much better planned. I started gathering evidence. I checked our phone records and found multiple late-night calls to an unsaved number. I tracked her location through our shared family app and saw the frequent trips to places she had never mentioned. I even went through her laptop when she was in the shower, finding an email thread between her and Ryan. Emma, I can't stop thinking about you. I know this is wrong, but when I'm with you, it feels right. Ryan, I never stopped loving you, Em. I should have never let you go. Emma, we need to be careful. Daniel is starting to ask questions. That was all I needed. I printed out the emails, screenshots of text logs, and the pictures I had taken at the restaurant. It was all there. The proof of her lies, her betrayal. But I wasn't going to just leave it at that. She had to feel the weight of what she had done. That Friday, I set my plan into motion. Emma had told me she was going to a work dinner. I knew exactly where she would be, at Ryan's apartment. I waited until she left, then grabbed the folder of evidence and drove to her parents' house. Her mother, Linda, opened the door, surprised to see me. Daniel, this is unexpected. I gave her a tight smile. I need to talk to you and Mr. Thompson. It's about Emma. Minutes later, I sat in their living room, their concerned faces staring at me as I laid everything out. The emails, the pictures, the phone records. Linda gasped, covering her mouth, while Emma's father sat back, shaking his head. I never thought she would do this, he muttered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Neither did I. Linda wiped away tears. What are you going to do? I exhaled slowly. I want her to face what she's done. I'm not letting this slide. She doesn't get to destroy our marriage and walk away like nothing happened. I left them with the evidence and drove straight to Ryan's apartment. My hands were steady, my mind clear. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I parked across the street and waited. An hour passed, then two, and then Emma walked out, Ryan right behind her. She was laughing, carefree, happy. The sight of it almost broke me, but I had come too far to let emotions take over now. I stepped out of the car and walked straight toward them. Emma's laughter died the second she saw me. Her face paled, her eyes wide with shock and guilt. Daniel, she stammered. What are you doing here? I held up the folder and tossed it at her feet. Papers scattered across the pavement. Emails, pictures, undeniable proof of her betrayal. Pick it up, I said, my voice eerily calm. Read it. Every single lie you told me. Every secret you thought you could keep. Ryan took a step forward. Look, man, I cut him off with a sharp glare. Shut your mouth. This isn't about you. It's about her. Emma bent down, her hands shaking as she gathered the papers. She flipped through them, her breath hitching. Tears welled in her eyes. Daniel, please, let's talk about this. I scoffed. Talk? Like how you talked to Ryan behind my back. Like how you talked about being careful so I wouldn't find out. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You had every chance to come clean, but you didn't. You lied to my face every single day. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? My voice cracked. Why wasn't I enough? She sobbed, shaking her head. It wasn't like that. I got caught up in old feelings. I didn't know how to stop. I stared at her for a long moment, then exhaled. You don't have to stop now, Emma. Because we're done. Her body jerked like I had slapped her. No, Daniel, please. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I turned away, already walking back to my car. It's too late. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. But I didn't look back. I had already given her too much of my heart. I drove away, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded, but it wasn't from anger anymore. It was from finality. It was over. I had spent years building a life with Emma, believing in our love, trusting her with everything I had. And she had torn it apart like it meant nothing. But now, she was the one left in the wreckage. By the time I got home, my phone was flooded with missed calls and texts from her. Emma, please, Daniel, I made a mistake. Let's talk. Emma, I can't lose you. I love you. Emma, please pick up. I'll do anything to fix this. I stared at the messages, feeling nothing but exhaustion. She was begging now. But where was this desperation when she was sneaking around behind my back? Where was this regret when she was laughing with Ryan, holding his hand in a restaurant, kissing him when she thought I wouldn't find out? I tossed my phone onto the table and walked into the bedroom. The same bed where we had once slept tangled in each other's arms, whispering dreams for the future. Now, it felt like a stranger's bed, a place tainted with lies. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. I wasn't going to waste another second with a woman who had already chosen someone else. Emma showed up at the house that evening, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. She knocked hesitantly, as if she wasn't sure she was still welcome. I let her in, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to end this properly. She stepped inside, wringing her hands. Daniel, please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I love you. I swear I do. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You love me? I repeated, my voice cold. Then why did you do it? Her bottom lip trembled. I don't know. I was confused. Ryan? He was my past, and seeing him again brought back all these old emotions. But I swear, I never meant for this to happen. I scoffed. You never meant for it to happen? Emma, you lied to me for months. You had a choice every single day to tell me the truth, and you didn't. She took a shaky breath. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. You lost me the second you chose him, I said flatly. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'll do anything, Daniel. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. Just don't throw away everything we built. I shook my head. You already threw it away. Her breath hitched. So, that's it? I nodded. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll be filing for divorce. She let out a broken sob, covering her face with her hands. No, please, Daniel. I deserve better, Emma, I said, my voice calm but firm. And I refuse to settle for less. She dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably, but I didn't reach for her. I didn't comfort her. Because this time, she had to face the consequences of her choices alone. Emma stayed on the floor, sobbing into her hands, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No urge to comfort her. Just an overwhelming sense of relief that this chapter of my life was finally closing. She had made her choices. Now, she had to live with them. After a while, she finally looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. Daniel, please, just give me one more chance. We can fix this. I swear. I'll do whatever it takes. I shook my head. There's nothing left to fix, Emma. You didn't just cheat on me. You lied, over and over. Every day you woke up and chose to betray me. She flinched at my words, as if they physically hurt her. It wasn't real, Daniel. I was lost. But I love you. I never stopped loving you. I let out a bitter laugh. That's the thing, Emma. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Love isn't sneaking around behind my back. Love isn't meeting your ex in secret and lying to my face every single day. Her face crumpled, fresh tears spilling over. I was selfish, she admitted. I got caught up in the past, in the nostalgia of what we used to have. But I swear, I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to lose you. I studied her for a long moment. And yet, Here we are. She let out a choked sob, shaking her head. Daniel, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but You're right, I cut in. You don't, she gasped softly, as if the finality of my words had knocked the breath out of her. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. Emma, I spent years building a life with you. I loved you more than anything, but you destroyed that. You destroyed us. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Daniel, I stepped back. I'll have the divorce papers sent to you. I'll be staying with Jason until this is finalized. Her breath hitched. You're leaving? I already left the moment you chose him. She collapsed into sobs again, but I turned away. I grabbed my packed bag from the hallway, walked out the door, and didn't look back. The divorce was finalized without much of a fight. Emma tried to hold on at first, begging for another chance. But once she realized I was serious, she stopped fighting. She didn't contest anything. I kept the house, my savings, and everything we built together. She, on the other hand, lost everything. Ryan, the man she threw our marriage away for, didn't stick around for long. 2 months after I left, I heard from a mutual friend that he had moved on to someone else. He never wanted to be with Emma. She had just been a convenient distraction. She had sacrificed everything for a man who didn't even care about her. I should have felt satisfaction at her downfall, but honestly, I didn't care. She was no longer my problem. As for me, I rebuilt my life, one day at a time. The first few months were rough, but I had Jason and a few close friends who kept me grounded. I threw myself into work, started hitting the gym again, and reconnected with people I had lost touch with during my marriage. And then, one day, I woke up and realized I felt lighter, happier, free. Emma had been my past, but she no longer had power over my future. I had one.